Happy New Year and welcome to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on the occasion of the visit of Minister of External Affairs of India, Excellency Mr. Jaishankar at Schallenberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, dear friend, dear Jai, yesterday we could together start this year in the possibly best way, together with your charming wife, at the New Year's concert with the Philharmonic Orchestra, and it's a true privilege and a pleasure to welcome you today at the Foreign Ministry here. As I said already, I told you already, this is actually the 5th meeting in the last 12 months between the both of us. And my team has told me that I haven't seen any foreign minister from outside Europe more often than I did see you.
Thank you.
I believe this is promising. And I'm happy to have you here because it's the first visit in the last 27 years of a foreign minister of Austria. And I hope that this is breaking a cycle and starting a new one with shorter intervals. I believe we already had yesterday a very good exchange together with the Federal Chancellor Karl Nehammer. And we consider India as a friend and as a partner with enormous potential. This year we will commemorate and celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations. And we're starting this year in the best possible way by signing a number of agreements, a number of memoranda of understanding and common declarations, reaching from consular affairs to working holidays and culture and art. And as far as commercial and economic ties are concerned, I believe they're booming. 2021, we have actually achieved a record in foreign exchange. And already last year, the numbers have even grown. And I believe there is room for much improvement. If I had one wish free on our relationship, I would say very easily, I want more. More trade, more investment, more exchange, more people-to-people contact, more Indian scholars here, more Austrian students and scholars in India the other way around. I believe there's a lot of potential, a lot of things we can learn and gain from each other. Most importantly today, we just initialed the agreement on a comprehensive migration and mobility partnership. This is of strategic importance for my country, for Austria. It's a sign of a very intensified cooperation in a matter which is of high importance for us, because last year we experienced the highest number ever of asylum seekers in Austria, over 100,000. And we had exploding numbers of Indians coming illegally via Serbia to Austria. Reaching from 2021, we had 600 asylum applications from Indian citizens in Austria, and suddenly they reached 18,000 last year. The numbers have now decreased. We have pressured our Serbian friends to align the visa liberalization policy to the EU policy, which they have done, thankfully, and now the number has decreased. But I'm especially happy about this agreement we have initialed and finalized today, because the problem is not immigration. The problem is not migration, to be very clear. We want that. We need that. The problem is illegal immigration. And here we have a very common view that this is something we don't want. We need immigration, but immigration controlled by states and not by organized crime and by human traffickers. That's the main point. And I have to say the Indians, tens of thousands of Indians living in Austria are welcome, an enriching part of our society. And this migration mobility agreement, on the one side, it's exemplary, because on the one side, India undertakes to take back people who come illegally, but on the other side, we undertake to make mobility and migration more easy, to have working holidays, to have students, to have scholars, to have skilled workers coming to Austria. So this is exactly what we're looking for, what we're striving for in a relationship with other countries. And I'm extremely happy and thankful, because we discussed it when I visited Delhi in March, and now, only not even 10 months later, we already have an agreement which we have finalized today. So there, it shows where there's a will, there's a way. We obviously, in the last couple of yesterday and today, we not only discussed bilateral matters. Alice, the world doesn't exist only of bilateral matters, and because that would be easy. This is a visit among friends here in Vienna. But we have seen in the last couple of years, first the pandemic, now the brutal war in Europe, that we need allies, we need friends, and we consider India as an ally and as a friend. India carries a very strong weight when it comes to multilateralism, when it comes to democracy, when it comes to defending a rules-based international system. So we share common interests, we share common values, and I said jokingly coming over here to the press conference, we count on you. We have a war raging here in Europe, not even 500 kilometers away from here, away from Vienna. It is a war on European soil, but it's by no way a European war, because you are sensing the repercussions, and millions of people around the world are suffering from soaring food and energy prices. This is a war with global implications. And in this respect, we count on India. We count on India as a voice of peace, as a voice of reason. And I may say that India always had a tradition of balancing world powers. And I think it's a good sign that India now holds the presidency of G20. And yes, we have high expectations, and I believe that the Indian voice is an important one because we do share another view. Peace can only be done at the negotiation table, never at the battlefield. And you know that, and I know that. And you can be assured that Austria will stand by your side and support whatever action you do, especially focusing on the G20 on food security and other points which are of high necessity for developing countries. And last but not least, there's another region which is of high importance to all of us. It's the Indo-Pacific. You could say the Indo-Pacific is the main artery of the global economy. Austria is an export-oriented country, and whatever happens in the Indo-Pacific is of major importance to us. So the geopolitical center of gravity, I believe, in the next couple of years will be this region. And here again, you are a valuable partner with whom to exchange, with whom to see how we can keep up functioning trade routes and supply chains, which are essential not only to Austria, but to world economy. So again, Jai, dear friend, warmest welcome here in Vienna. I'm happy that you're here, and I'm looking forward to all the things we will accomplish in this year where we're celebrating 75 years of diplomatic relations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Alexander. Let me first say to Foreign Minister Schallenberg that I fully share his sentiments and assessment of the state of our relations. Let me also thank you for inviting us to the iconic New Year's concert of the Vienna Philharmonic yesterday. I can't think of a more enjoyable and optimistic way of beginning the new year. It is, of course, an event that is followed throughout the world, but in a way, it is also an occasion for us to express our cultures and respect our cultures. And so certainly there was a strong element of enjoyment, but also a symbolism to my presence yesterday. I was privileged yesterday to meet President Alexander van der Bellen on that occasion. I would like to thank Chancellor Karl Nehammer for receiving me yesterday afternoon. Our conversation, our extensive conversation yesterday was very valuable in understanding Austria's viewpoint, both about our relationship as well as on current global issues. Today, our discussions took that forward in terms of very detailed consideration of various aspects of our relationship. Let me underline that we view Austria as a serious and consequential partner when it comes to bilateral cooperation. You have experiences and capabilities that are relevant to India's modernization and progress. These are guided by government policies, but ultimately implemented through business transactions. Our commitment today is to take both aspects forward in tandem, and I look forward to concrete initiatives in that regard. We have currently a trade turnover of approximately $2.5 billion. More than 150 Austrian companies are present in India. We would like those numbers also to grow more substantially. Our understanding is that this endeavor will be pursued through government-encouraged business-led meetings in the course of this year. I'm glad to note that India's presence in the Austrian economy has also grown substantially. This is particularly so in the digital and auto industries. There is, again, scope to grow more here. And the bottom line is really that in the manufacturing domain, the post-COVID world is seeking greater resilience and reliability of supply chains. Similarly, the digital world is putting a greater emphasis on trust and transparency, and we believe that India is part of both solutions. With you, Minister, and with the Chancellor, I had an occasion to talk about the relevance of Make in India and to access the Indian market. I assure you that we will support Austrian companies who step forward in that regard. As I understand, there are many Austrian companies who can more actively contribute to our national priorities. Similarly, our enterprises too can generate value and employment when located in Austria. Our responsibility as ministers is to make sure that such partnerships happen. I shared with Chancellor Nehammer yesterday and with Foreign Minister Schallenberg today the transformative changes underway in India. In particular, I highlighted the digital delivery for development and the green growth of the economy, as well as the advancements in health security. We welcome partnerships that help us take these objectives forward. We have today concluded a number of agreements, and you heard from the Foreign Minister in that regard. And I think a particularly noteworthy one is the initialing of the Comprehensive Migration and Mobility Partnership Agreement, because it will enable demands for skills and talents to be synchronized with their availability. Similar agreements have been recently concluded by India with Germany, France, Portugal, UK, and Denmark, amongst others. It will help us to cooperatively expand our economic opportunities and meet the requirements of the global knowledge economy. Let me also be clear that as a country that seeks to utilize the global workplace to the fullest advantage, India is a strong votary of legal migration and mobility. Irregular movement not only enhances the vulnerability of the people involved, but is inherently exploitative. We want a fair, legal, and equal opportunity to demonstrate the contributions of Indian skills and talent. We have also today had open and productive discussions on a range of regional and global situations. By and large, I would say our approaches are similar, though obviously we are located in different regions and we have our particular compulsions. I appreciate the exchanges we've had both today and yesterday on Ukraine, on the Middle East, on South Asia and the Indo-Pacific. They have brought out the significant convergences in our thinking. We spoke at some length on the threats to international peace and security that is posed by terrorism, including its cross-border practices, by violent extremism, radicalization, and fundamentalism. Their effects cannot be contained within a region, especially so when they're deeply connected to narcotics and illegal weapons trade and other forms of international crime. Since the epicenter is located so close to India, naturally our experiences and insights are useful to others. With regard to the Ukraine conflict, let me underline that India remains deeply concerned. We sincerely believe that this is not the era of war. Differences must be settled on the negotiating table. It is imperative that there is a return to dialogue and diplomacy. Prolonged conflict will not serve the interests of any party. My Prime Minister has been in contact with the leaders of both nations, pressing our point of view in that regard. We are also increasingly anxious about the knock-on effects of the conflict in terms of accessibility and affordability of fuel, food, and fertilizers. This is a growing concern for the Global South. Austria is an important partner for India in the European Union at a time when we seek to upgrade our relationship. We appreciate its strong support for the negotiations underway on the FTA the investment agreement, and the geographical indicators agreement. Their conclusion will obviously have a positive impact on our bilateral economic partnership as well. We also have a strong meeting of minds on the challenges confronting the international community, whether it is pandemics or climate change, terrorism or cybersecurity. Our interests are indeed very convergent. Conversations today have surely helped to bring the requisite segments of our system together in that regard. India, as the Minister noted, has just assumed the presidency of the G20. We have also completed our current tenure as a member of the UN Security Council. As a participant in many international organizations and initiatives, we appreciate the insights that Austria provides on so many issues. Working together more closely in the multilateral domain was one of the many understandings that the Foreign Minister and I reinforced today. Foreign Minister Schallenberg and I, as he pointed out, have met 5 times in the last year. I think at least I have taken a great shine to him. There should be proof of our determination as well to take ties to a higher level. We have the fullest support of our leaderships in that regard. And once again, let me thank him for the very warm welcome, for the productive discussions, and for charting out a pathway really to take our relationship to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. I might add that we have afterwards a meeting with our Czech and Slovakian colleague. Yesterday you met the president of Bulgaria.
Indeed.
So your visit to Vienna also proves what I always say, that we are sort of a regional hub and you don't need to travel elsewhere, just come to Vienna.
Thank you, ministers. Are there any questions? Thomas Schmidt, bitte.
Thank you. Happy New Year, ministers.
Micro.
Thomas Schmidt, Austria Press Agency. As you have spoken about the war in Ukraine, a question to you both. Russia has discarded the most recent Ukrainian idea for a peace plan. Do you see, nevertheless, any increased willingness on both sides to engage in talks sooner or later? And more specifically to you, Minister Jaishankar, India is willing. India has stressed the importance of dialogue. And there has been recently a phone call between President Zelensky and Prime Minister Modi. Could you a little bit elaborate the position of your country? Is India willing to engage in some sort of mediating role or facilitating role once the time has come for that? Thank you.
Should I?
Okay.
You know, in my opening remarks, I have laid out very clearly our position, which is that there has to be a return to dialogue and diplomacy. Now, since the conflict started in February, obviously the immediate pressures and anxieties have changed with the passage of time. In the initial weeks, a lot of that was centered for us around a very large number of Indian students that we had, more than 20,000 of them in Ukraine, and how to get them out of the conflict zone. And we did so, and we did so with also the support of all the neighbors of Ukraine. And that is also something which I would be expressing to the ministers of Czechia and Slovakia when I meet them. But what has happened now is at a big picture level, yes, we strongly press for negotiations and discussions. My Prime Minister has had a recent conversation, not just with President Zelensky, also with President Putin. This is not the first conversations he has had. They've been talking from time to time. I myself have spoken again to Foreign Ministers Lavrov and Kuleba. Now, while the larger goal is being pressed, I think the Ukraine situation also produces specific problems which need priority addressing. One example of that was, the negotiations which preceded the Black Sea grain initiative. And at that time too, this was mainly led by the Secretary General of the UN and by Turkey. And we had done our bit, including at Bali, to be supportive of that and to address some specific concerns which at that time were still open. Another issue which had come up was regarding the safety of the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia. So that too has been a subject where, we have tried to do whatever is within our capabilities to create more stability. And I will be meeting Mr. Grossi tomorrow at IAEA headquarters. So the point which I want to make is, yes, I think there is today very strong global sentiment for ending this conflict, for getting back to negotiations. As I said, a large part of the developing world is feeling very, very painfully the escalation of prices of fuel, food, and fertilizer. So we articulate that sentiment, but also as today G20 president, I think we have a responsibility of trying to channel and capture global views in this regard and see how we can take that forward in a positive direction.
May I add, from my perspective, and I said so repeatedly, it's a question of common sense, it's a question of logic. Peace is never done on the battlefield. Peace is done on a negotiation table, always. History has proven it again and again. And this war won't be an exception. But yes, it takes two sides to agree to negotiate. And one rule is clear: no negotiations about Ukraine without Ukraine. They have to be sitting on the table. And Ukraine has been putting forward a 10-point plan, which I think is interesting. I discussed it with Dmytro Kuleba at our meeting in Poland in December, and where I believe, for instance, issues like nuclear safety, you don't have to endorse all 10 points of it. You can pick out certain countries can choose one point where they want to engage. I believe this is a very smart way of approaching the issue. But yes, in the long run, we shouldn't lose out of sight the goal. And the goal has to be, for all of us, to recreate a situation where peace and diplomacy can take place again, where peace gets a chance. But here again, for the time being, I don't see it yet, because both sides are trying to, find decisive scores on the battlefield. And I nevertheless think it's disconcerting if on European Union level, it is for the time being not possible to include this long-term vision which we have, for instance, within the United Nations, that at the end we need negotiations to settle an agreement, to settle for peace, that we cannot even find consensus within the European Union to add these languages in our conclusions. I think this is a disturbing thing, looking at the history of the European integration.
May I just add one other point? One issue which hasn't got the attention which it should is really today the shortage of fertilizers and the prices of fertilizers as a result of this conflict. So that is again an issue where we are trying to see we can work with various partners. Of course, the UN Secretary General has been taking the lead in that regard. So there are really very, to my mind, very specific, almost modular issues which can be addressed on a self-standing basis, even while we are pursuing a larger goal for peace and cessation of hostilities.
Thank you. I think it's first row.
Happy New Year, Alex Kofler from the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation. And if you don't mind, please, Minister Schallenberg, to answer in German for our Austrian audience. What you said before, like what role can India play to restore peace and end the war maybe in Ukraine?
If you don't mind.
Please.
Ich glaube, Indien hat eine große Geschichte auszugleichen. Es ist ein Land, das sozusagen immer wieder versucht hat, in seiner Geschichte zwischen Weltmächten einen Ausgleich zu finden. Und ich habe das sehr lange mit meinem Freund und Partner, dem indischen Außenminister, besprochen, dass ich glaube, dass eine große Rolle auf Indien zukommt in diesem Zusammenhang. Der Premierminister Modi ist einer der wenigen noch, der sozusagen regelmäßig mit beiden Seiten, mit Ukraine und mit Russland im Gespräch ist. Und er hat auch sehr klar gesagt, etwas, was sehr wichtig ist. Er hat gesagt, this is not an era for war. Das ist jetzt kein Zeitpunkt für Krieg. Das ist nicht eine Ära des Krieges. Und hat ein sehr deutliches Signal an den russischen Präsidenten geschickt. Und ich glaube, da haben wir auch hohe Erwartungen, auch an die G20-Vorsitz Indiens, dass sie eine der Stimmen der Vernunft sein werden. Und wir brauchen Stimmen der Vernunft. Weil eines ist klar, unser Ziel muss sein, dass wieder Frieden herrscht, dass Diplomatie wieder Raum greifen kann in der Ukraine. Noch sind wir nicht so weit. Noch wird sozusagen versucht, hier im Schlachtfeld eine Entscheidung zu finden. Und wir wissen alle, dass der Krieg uns noch lange in dieses Jahr hinein begleiten wird. Aber unser Ziel dürfen wir nicht aus den Augen verlieren. Frieden wird immer am Verhandlungstisch gemacht, nie am Schlachtfeld. Und auch dieser Krieg wird keine Ausnahme sein.
Thank you very much. And maybe
I said the same thing.
could you repeat your statement from your speech? Like, why is it so important that close ties between India and Austria? Thank you.
Also ich glaube, Indien ist ein sehr wesentlicher Partner und ein Freund von Österreich. Indien ist die weltweit größte Demokratie. Wir haben einen sehr ähnlichen Zugang zum Multilateralismus, zur Verteidigung des wertebasierten Systems. Und ja, wir haben momentan eine Situation, wo vieles sozusagen im Fluss ist, in Frage gestellt scheint. Wir haben jahrzehntelang gute Wirtschaftsbeziehungen gehabt mit Russland und Belarus und anderen Staaten. Und die scheinen jetzt mit einem Fragezeichen versehen. Da kommen natürlich plötzlich Staaten wie Indien sehr viel mehr in den Fokus. Momentan ist Indien noch nach China, Japan und Korea der viertgrößte Handelspartner. Aber ich glaube, dass hier ein großes Potenzial für mehr besteht. Es ist ein aufstrebendes Land und wir haben sehr viel auch kulturell voneinander zu profitieren. Und ich sehe da auf allen Bereichen, sei es von Wissenschaft, Wirtschaft, Kultur, ein großes Potenzial. Heuer feiern wir 75 Jahre diplomatische Beziehungen und wir haben eigentlich einen Höhepunkt. Wir haben uns 5-mal getroffen in den letzten 12 Monaten, einen intensiveren Rhythmus hat es nie gegeben und wir schauen, dass wir vielleicht heuer entweder einen Besuch von Premierminister Modi nach Wien oder vom Bundeskanzler Nehammer nach Delhi, dass wir auch dieses Jahr wirklich auch gemeinsam begehen und hier vor allem auch im Wirtschaftsbereich und im technologischen Austausch neue Wege finden. Und noch einmal, Indien ist auch im multilateralen Bereich in der UNO ein ganz wesentlicher Partner für uns, ein strategischer Partner. Und es ist daher ganz klar in unserem Interesse, dass wir diese Beziehungen weiterhin ausbauen.
Thank you very much. We have time for one more question, if there is one. I don't see any.
I got the broad.
Oh, I see one question. Well.
Antonia Ebner, Broadcaster Service TV. I have an off-topic question, so if I may ask you, Minister, to answer in German as well. Frankreich, Deutsch.
I have a visit from the
No, please. Yeah.
Es geht um die Corona-Tests, die die USA, Frankreich zum Beispiel eingeführt haben für Einreisende aus China. Ist das in Österreich auch vorgesehen? Warum nicht?
It's on the Chinese.
Yes.
Also ich finde es begrüßenswert, dass China jetzt endgültig und endlich lockere Schritte vorgenommen haben. Es hat sich erwiesen, dass die Zero-Covid-Policy, die sie verfolgt haben, desaströs war, langfristig. Und auch, dass autokratische Regime offenbar länger brauchen, Lernkurven hinzulegen. Aber sie haben sie jetzt gemacht, sie haben jetzt lockere Schritte gesetzt, das ist wichtig. Die Großteil der europäischen Staaten haben keine Regelungen eingeführt und ich glaube, das ist auch momentan nicht notwendig. Ich weiß, Sie haben erwähnt, einige haben das gemacht. Ich glaube, wir sollten auf europäischer Ebene hier konzertiert vorgehen. Wir sollten vermeiden, dass was manchmal geschehen ist im Jahr 2020, 2021, ein Fleckerlteppich an Regelungen. Ich würde also sehr dafür plädieren, dass die Gesundheitsminister auf europäischer Ebene sich schnell zusammenfinden und hier einen gemeinsamen Zugang finden. Wir von österreichischer Seite, mein Verständnis ist, dass wir solche Schritte momentan bilateral nicht für notwendig erachten.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ministers. Vielen herzlichen Dank auch für Ihr Kommen.
Thank you.